This is a demonstration of free motion microstippling. You will see me hold my hand against the side of this foot, so I might get in a little bit in your way of your vision, but holding my hand against the side of the foot actually enables me to make the stitch as small as I can. So let's get started. In this demonstration, the distance between my stitches is a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch. So between one stitching line and another, it's about 1/8 of an inch difference. I've speeded things up just a little bit here because I'd actually like to show you how this actually fills a large surface. As you can see, I work from left to right, working across the space, and then once I get to the far right edge, I actually turn the whole piece, and again work from left to right as well, or even from bottom to top in that situation. Really play with it and try and find the way that works the best for you. You're going to find that certain angles you can stitch better using certain angles, and definitely use your finger to kind of act as a stop to your presser foot. As you can see in this situation, my index finger is acting like a stop, so that when I'm pushing and pulling on my piece, my quilt essentially, I can't go kind of overboard. I can't go crazy because my finger is in the way. It stops the presser foot from swinging out too far, out of control. And you don't want to, of course, get your finger too close to the needle because it is free motion. You are using a darning foot, which is open, and you can easily stitch your finger. But if you're careful, you can use your finger as a stop for the back of the foot, and kind of, it's almost like hooking your finger around the foot to keep your stitches very small and consistent. Consistency is key. You just want to make sure that you can't find, you don't see an area of the stitching that is too close together, and just looks, really inconsistent or too far apart. The more consistent it is, the more it looks like a very flat, matte background, and that's really the effect that you're wanting with microstippling. Another thing to keep in mind, I just thought of, I'm right now in this video using a contrasting thread, and because of that, of course, my stitches have to remain very consistent, and they can't cross, they can't touch. When you're working with a matching thread, so if I was using a black thread on black fabric, you really don't have to be as picky or as precise. It's one of those kinds of tricks of the trade that the pros use. You can actually cross all you want in the situation of microstippling with a matching thread, simply because no one is going to look at your quilt so closely that they can follow the line. So it doesn't matter if it crosses. But when you're using a contrasting thread, it definitely shows when your stitches get too close together or too far apart. So make sure you maintain consistency if you're going to use contrasting thread. And I encourage you to do so. Contrasting thread looks terrific on a quilt. It really shows off your stitches, and a lot of judges really like it in a quilt, simply because it shows that you're brave enough to try it. I oftentimes use contrasting threads with a contrasting background, the backing of my quilts, so that way I get an entirely different look. I get basically a second quilt on the back. If you find yourself having trouble with making the microstippling stitch, just kind of a meandering stitch, take a piece of paper and practice drawing it. You're going to get so good at it if you practice on the machine that you can actually stitch it faster than you can draw it. I know I can, but what you're doing is you're building muscle memory. You're actually building muscles inside your hands, inside your brain, that will remember how that stitch flows. And it all kind of works together. So definitely try drawing it. Concentrate on just kind of creating loops and puppy dog ears, those types of shapes that don't cross, you know, kind of cartoon people legs and arms, that type of idea, and then simply kind of echo back over those shapes repeatedly for a really good micro stipple. Also, don't be afraid to change directions of your quilt. Even if you're working with a very big quilt, you can quilt them with a domestic sewing machine. It's very easy to do so long as you simply work from the center out. And the center might be a little tough because of the bulk of the quilt, but don't roll your quilt, and always just kind of puddle it up in the center and then flatten out the center so that way you can stitch it just like I'm showing you. It doesn't matter if you're working on a 4-inch piece or a 40-inch piece or a 400-inch piece. It can all be quilted with a domestic sewing machine. And even my biggest quilts, Release Your Light, biggest quilt I've ever done, 77 inches square, was done on a domestic sewing machine. And it was done very, very densely, just as dense as this. So it's definitely possible. Might take a little bit of work to get you there, but you can definitely do it. For more free motion designs, go to my website, daystyledesigns.com.